You all remember how Donald Trump and the Republicans said that their tax cuts were going to be absolutely amazing for the economy and for the American worker? Well, here's another reason why that was a complete lie. According to a new report from the Congressional Budget Office, most of the economic growth from the Trump tax cuts is not going back into the American people's pockets. It's not trickling down. In fact, it's going overseas, right out of America. Now, the report found significant differences between projected GDP, which measures the level of production in the United States, and the gross national product, which measures the income earned by all Americans. If the economic impact from GDP is higher than GNP, the differences between the two is income generated in the United States, but going to foreigners. So understand what that means. So this is income and wealth that's created in the United States by American workers, but guess what? The fruits of that labor are flowing out of the United States. That wealth, that income generation is going somewhere else, to China or India or the UK, Europe, wherever. It's not staying in America. That wealth is not going to us. Now, according to the CBO, that on average, 34% of income from the economic activity driven by the tax cuts right now is flowing out of the country. However, in 2028, when the full effects of the tax cuts are in place, that number increases to 80%. 80% of the economic activity created by the tax cuts that Donald Trump and the Republicans signed are going to go right out of the United States. It's not coming back to you. It's going into the hands of the rich, and it's coming right out of America. Worse off, the effects of those tax cuts, by the way, is not just income and wealth generation going out of the country, also income and wealth generation going right to the rich. And you will end up having to pay for it. Now, you see, what rich people and giant multinational corporations, what they don't pay in taxes, you end up making up, either in higher taxes on things like, for example, consumption, gas taxes, different governmental fees, etc. Got to pay for things, right? I mean, that's the conventional wisdom. You got to have money to pay for things. Well, where are we going to get the money from? Either you run a gigantic deficit, in which the tax cuts, by the way, CBO also scored the tax cuts as adding $1.9 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years. And look, this is disastrous, okay? Yes, you're going to pay for this in the end. And look, the other way that you pay for it, not only through, increased taxes on yourself, the middle class, state and local taxes, because, again, they're not going to raise it federally until these tax cuts for the middle class expire, when they do in 2028. States will run out of revenue. They'll get less revenue from the government. They're going to have to find the taxes somehow. They're going to have to fund things somehow. And that's going to come right out of your pocket. Now, the other way, of course, they'll get this from you is in reduced government programs. Now, that's unfortunately already what the tax cuts are leading to. Yesterday, I did a story about Donald Trump ordering a review of all of our different safety net programs to see what they can cut. Well, I mean, we passed this gigantic tax cut bill. Now, we're going to say we don't have any money, and we're going to go and cut welfare. We're going to cut food stamps. We're going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We're going to cut low-income housing for the poor. That's the entire plan put forward by the Republicans. And now they're going to say, look at those debts and deficits. I guess we're just going to have to cut your health care. Sorry. And it's not just programs that help the poor. It's programs that actually also help the middle class. These tax cuts, you don't understand, these are the greatest theft in history from the poor and the middle class. This is income redistribution from the poor and the middle class to the very rich. 83% of these tax cuts, the benefit, goes to the wealthy, not to you. Now, I got a quote here from Senator Chris Van Hollen. Now, he told Newsweek, quote, "We heard statement after statement about how this tax plan would be great for American workers, but the analysts are clear. When this thing kicks in, 80 cents of every dollar gained from the tax plan will go to foreigners and not American workers." That is a stunning number. Stunning, yes, but you know what? It's something that maybe we weren't completely warning about, but another negative economic impact of these gigantic tax cuts. Now, there's more information about how exactly foreign investors will benefit from this. Now, Newsweek explains that nearly 1/3 of the U.S. stock market is owned by foreign investors, which means that they end up benefiting from the $238 billion increase in stock buyback authorizations that happened since the tax law had passed. So all these foreign investors will go and invest in American corporations through the stock market. And look, when these tax cuts passed, one of the impacts of this was increased stock buybacks. Now, that is something that we warned about. We said, look, this money, this is not going to trickle down. It's not going to go and create more jobs. It's not going to go to creating more wages or raising wages. What they're going to do is that they're going to use this money to buy back their own stock. That's it. That's what they're going to do. And of course, they're like, no, Republicans are like, no, of course not. No. They're going to use this. They're going to create jobs. They're going to ignite the economic engine of of America, of the working class. And then everybody's going to be fantastic. No, they $238 billion in stock buybacks. That's the impact of the tax cuts. And of course, these foreign investors, well, since they're investors, right? Well, they get their return on investment. I guess it turns out that if you invest in American corporations, you're going to do fantastic under this system because it is a system of greed and it is a system of corruption. They bought our politicians. They bought the Republican Party. Donald Trump was corrupt to begin with, and he went to the top to try to, he claimed that he was going to fight that corruption, and that's why people elected him. But he is the corruption. Or a great, great example of that corruption that has been in our system before. He is not the corrupter, he is part of the corrupted. But anyway, an analysis of Fortune 500 companies found that corporations have spent 37 times more on stock buybacks than on Americans' workers' bonuses and wages. Again, no surprise. We said that that's exactly what was going to happen. They're not going to invest in your wages because they don't need to. They're not going to invest in more jobs because they don't need to. Demand drives the economy, not supply. Corporations, I'm sorry, they do not drive the economy. It is consumer spending that drives the economy. When consumers don't have money, they don't spend as much. And when they don't spend as much, there's not as many jobs. And of course, you don't create jobs, then there is a permanent unemployed underclass of people. That's how this system works. But anyway, Van Hollen continues. He says, quote, Republicans had fair warning that a huge chunk of this economic boost would flow to foreigners. The bottom line is that foreigners own a large chunk of U.S. corporations and will get a windfall. But look, they don't care. They don't care. They sold you a lie. 83% of the benefits of the tax cuts went to the rich. 80% of the benefits now will also flow out into these foreign investors. They took all that money that could have been used for something else and gave it to the rich. Now, Van Hollen also said, quote, Republicans have clearly abandoned any claims of fiscal responsibility. You're borrowing close to $2 trillion from our kids and grandkids, and then you're giving it to corporations and others at the end of the day. 80% of the benefits and additional economic activity are going to foreigners. But see, there's a couple of things wrong with that. actually. For one, Republicans have never been fiscally responsible. Republicans are the Santa Claus for the rich. They give out gifts. Look, they want to accuse the Democrats of giving out gifts to their, to their voters. Yeah, things like, I don't know, fairer wages and benefits for when people can't find work and things like that, so that they can actually survive. Oh, this is Democrats just giving out gifts. Yeah, but then the Republicans give out gifts to the rich and to military defense contractors and corporations. So, look, they can't claim that they're fiscally responsible, okay, when they just pass gigantic tax cuts for the rich. And then, of course, it's funny because whenever Democrats get into power, they howl and scream and cry about the debt. Oh, $20 trillion in debt. Oh, my God, Obama. You know, Obama lowered the deficit. Not the same as the debt, obviously. But look, he lowered the deficit because, look, here's the thing. Deficit reduction actually is pretty unpopular. You ask the American people. Most American people are like, yeah, I'm not really worried about that we have a debt and deficit problem. No, I'm worried about jobs. I'm worried about health care. I'm worried about how I'm going to pay for my kids' college. I'm worried about that stuff. I'm not worried about that. But if you ask people that are in Washington, you ask some of the pundits and you ask people on, on Wall Street, they're the ones that are really, really worried about the debt. Those are the deficit hawks, right? Now, here's the thing. Most of the politicians in Washington listen to those people. So they're like, oh, we got to do something about the debt and deficit. It's so big. It's so big. We got to handle it. We're borrowing from our kids. No. That's why Democrats lose in elections, because they subscribe to the fiscal conservatism that the Republicans claim that they represent. I mean, and there's a reason for that. If we're all worried about debts and deficits, which a majority of the American people are not, but the politicians are, well, then we can't enact things like single payer. Then we can't do free college. Then we can't do other policies that are incredibly popular with the American people. I'm sorry, we can't do it. Debts and deficits, man. Why? It's because Republicans and centrist corporate Democrats have convinced everybody that we just don't have the money. We just don't have the money. But wait a minute. We do have money. We're our own sovereign fiat currency. we control how much money we have. And so we can create and destroy our own money. In fact, that's what taxes are. Taxes just eliminates money out of the system. But, and that explains, by the way, that we can have money for tax cuts for the rich and for all the wars that we could ever have, that we could ever want. That's why. Because they know this already. This is a big lie that the Republicans have been selling us since at least the 30s. That you can cut taxes on the rich, that you can spend money on war, but you can't do social programs because we just don't have the money. It's too expensive. No, we can do it. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't rein in the bloated military. No, that's absolutely what we should do. We spend too much of our resources on the military. And look, we should tax the rich. Of course we should tax the rich. Not to pay for things, but to tax that money out of existence. Because right now, we have record levels of income inequality. That hurts the economy. That even hurts the rich. All that money should not exist at the top. There should be a little bit more of an even or equal distribution of that money. Don't buy the lie. Don't buy the bullshit from both neoliberals and conservatives. We can do these things. And we will if we elect real progressives. If you keep on electing corporate Democrats and Republicans, you're going to continue to see all of your benefits, all of your money end up going to the hands of the rich and multinational corporations. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.